regular and sanitation district meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher here. Before we begin, we want to recognize today is Professional Administrator Day, and so throughout San Diego County, we want to thank all of our admins and the professional staff for everything that they do. We appreciate you every day, but today's the day we actually recognize you, so thank you all. We also want to recognize the observation of Denim Day. If you are unfamiliar with Denim Day, there's a really important, tragical, but also powerful reminder of attitudes and thoughts around sexual assault. And so on this day every year, we draw attention to that in support of survivors of sexual assault and changing the attitudes and stigma that often pervades those who have been assaulted. And so if you're curious why your board may be a little casual, that is the reason. So thank you all for that. We begin today's meeting with a proclamation from Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer honoring Olivia Avalon DuPont and Kenneth Andrew DuPont. And accepting the proclamation will be Olivia and Kenneth, or Andrew. I'm not sure which. What do you go by, Kenneth or Andrew? Kenneth? All right, Kenneth, come on up. You're up.
Welcome. Good morning. It is my honor to recognize two of our amazing youth in our district. They're bringing joy to thousands of kids across the United States. They have created the Optimistic Coloring Book series in 2021 to bring hope to thousands of hospitalized children and their families. The books combine quotes from famous leaders with beautiful and cheerful illustrations. Kenneth founded the Optimistic Coloring Books gifting program in July of 2021, which has now established an international network of children's hospitals to accept these books. As a mom, this warms my heart and gives me hope for the future of our community and our country. The gifting program is currently operating in over 125 children's hospitals and organizations across the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Kenya, South Africa, Botswana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and the Philippines. Good work. The third volume of Olivia's Optimistic Coloring Book, a playful and spring-themed edition, is out this month. And with Kenneth's help, it will reach the hands and hearts of thousands of hospitalized children across the globe. So, on behalf of the County Board of Supervisors and my office, it is my honor to proclaim April 27th as Olivia and Kenneth DuPont Day throughout San Diego County. Thank you, Kenneth and Olivia. Do you have some remarks? Okay.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Lawson-Remer, and also thank you to the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. I'm truly honored. First, I wish to thank my mom for teaching me empathy and the importance of giving back. She encouraged me to create the Optimistic Coloring Book series. I'd also like to thank my big brother for creating the national and global platform for my coloring books of support and to support hospitalized children. Finally, I wish to dedicate this proclamation to hospitalized children and their families. My heartfelt wish is that they take comfort and draw strength from knowing that they are not alone, and there are so many people that care. Their courage and strength are inspiring. I send the children my very best wishes for their good health, and also I hope that they have a wonderful time using the coloring book. Thank you.
Good morning. I would like to thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Remer and Chair Fletcher and the San Diego County Board of Supervisors for this wonderful proclamation. San Diego is my inspiring hometown. I am deeply honored. After thinking about the smiles and hope Olivia's first coloring book brought to hundreds of seriously ill children and their families at Rady Children's Hospital in Oak Camp Reach for the Sky, 9 months ago, I decided to create the Optimistic Coloring Book gifting program with the express goal of reaching as many children, hospitalized children as possible. I began my mission last July. I researched children's hospitals, wrote a business plan and implementation strategy, but most importantly, I picked up the phone and called donations, gifting, foundation, executives, and children's hospitals across the USA and internationally. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work directly with dedicated professionals who share our vision of bringing optimism and joy to their young patients. Thus far, as director of Optimistic Coloring Book Program, I have made multiple rounds of gifts of Olivia's coloring books to over 125 children's hospitals nationwide and globally in 10 countries. Bringing smiles and hopes to thousands of hospitalized children is my passion, but this is just the start. I would also like to wish thanks to my mother and my little sister Olivia for their never-ending inspiration. I am deeply honored to be here today. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to you both. Thank you for joining here today and all of your work. Next on the agenda is non-agendized public communication. It's an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but which are not on today's agenda. The only action the Board of Supervisors may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will be provided additional time to facilitate translation. Pursuant to the rules of procedure, we will hear from up to 5 in-person speakers and 5 virtual speakers. Any remaining non-agendized public speakers will be heard at the conclusion of the regular board meeting today. At this point, I'll ask the clerk to call forward up to 5 in-person and 5 virtual speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 16 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 2 in person and 14 by phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your time to speak. You will then have 2 minutes to address the board, and I would like to invite forward Sandra and Eleanor. And if you could please begin by stating your name for the record. And Robert German, not Sandra. My apologies.
Okay, my name's Eleanor. Before I start, I just want to remind everybody again, if you haven't signed the medical freedom petition, to sign it, because as I said yesterday, without bodily autonomy, we won't have any freedom. Jim Desmond, I just want to talk...
Could you bring the microphone closer?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Yes. So, again, just to remind everybody to sign the medical freedom petition. Anybody who wants bodily autonomy should sign it. I just want to talk about the last meeting when you told one of the speakers that you were insulted by the profanities he was using. And while I personally don't use profanities, I can certainly understand the frustration of people when for month after month you sit here and insult our intelligence, pretend we don't exist, talk and whisper to each other while people are talking. So it's amazing that only a few profanities have been issued. The other thing I want to register concern about is the spraying of the toxic fire retardant in the unincorporated districts. We know that once the ground is sprayed, plants won't grow. Is that the aim, to stop people from growing their own plants? I'm very concerned about that. And then the last thing I wanted to say is I came across a very interesting book that I encourage everybody to read. It's called Roots of the Federal Reserve by Laura Sanger, and it talks about the Nephilim, who are the seeds of Satan. So I encourage everybody to read the book and decide for yourself who's sitting on our Board of Supervisors. One of the traits in the book, I quote, "They are deceivers, liars, and they masquerade as servants of righteousness." So please read the book and decide for yourself. Thanks.
Good morning. Robert Gurman. I have a slide, I think. Just one. Yeah. My name is Robert Gurman. After reading the article in the San Diego Union about the $4 billion change that San Diego is proposing for the Grand Central Station connecting Lindbergh Field, I had to come in here this morning and give my 2 cents. Lindbergh has done its job for the last 60 years. It is time for a new public use airport at MCAS. The most common sense solution, swap airports. Lindbergh's 633 acres for MCAS's 26,000 acres. The slide shows the first step for filling the rail requirement onto airport property in the Build Back Better law. The purple line marks existing active railroad tracks that run into Miramar Airport property. These have very wide easements. And that's just the first slide. And so that's it. Do you have any questions? Okay, so let's talk about the airport for 43 seconds. The reason I don't call it an international airport, it is a one runway, 9,000 foot. It is a regional airport. Just because the San Diego Airport Authority wants to call it an international airport doesn't mean it's an international airport. So that's why I use the word Lindbergh. It is still Lindbergh. So let's see, 17 more seconds. I think I'll call it quits. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I would like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will begin with our first caller, and again, if you could please state your name before beginning your comments. Caller has been unmuted. If you'd like to state your name and begin your comments.
Consuelo. You're either aware of the programming or you've been programmed. Good citizens don't think. Thinking leads to reasoning. Reasoning leads to right and wrong. Wrong leads to revolt. Revolt leads to bad citizens. I don't trust the government. I don't trust the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. I don't trust the military industrial complex. I don't trust the mainstream media. I don't trust the bankster criminal cabal that owns the government, that owns the medical, pharmaceutical, industrial complex, owns the military industrial complex, and owns the mainstream media. And if you call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't trust you, because supporting the corrupt 1% is treason. Remember, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. The bankers will make sure that we remain in debt. The pharmaceutical companies and your doctors will make sure that you stay sick. The arms manufacturers will ensure that we continue to go to war. The media will make sure that we are prevented from learning the truth. And the government will ensure that all this can happen legally. We are in the process of vibrating out of their paradigm. Hold on tight. Because to survive in a nation of sheep ruled by wolves, owned by pigs, you must become a lion. Never worry about what the sleepy others think of you. They'll deem you crazy when you've become wiser and more informed. Not because you are crazy, but because their illusions is threatened. Also note, when they say they are predicting food shortages, what they are really saying is that they are planning food shortages. Keep your eyes wide open to all their evil lies and know that you...
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is KB Strange. I'm a pharmacist practicing in the unincorporated area of District 5. I'm concerned about the sale of high-potency THC marijuana products. These high-potency THC marijuana products, often flavored, are causing increased emergency room admissions, people presenting with respiratory depression, heart problems, and mental health issues that are very challenging for the medical and treatment communities. You should know that primarily consumers of flavored tobacco and marijuana products are under the age of 25. It would definitely be in the interest of our citizens, especially our youth, for the Board of Supervisors to update the municipal code and remove the sale of high concentrate THC flavored marijuana products that are found in vapes, edibles, and drinkables. This municipal code change could mirror your own ban on flavored tobacco products. Flavored tobacco and marijuana products are misunderstood and used without carefulness or appropriate deliberation of their effects. Regarding flavored marijuana products, the CDC has issued this caution. When you experience significant impairment or distress from ongoing problematic use of THC, patients should seek evidence-based behavioral treatment and recovery services by contacting SAMHSA, that's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And they have a phone number, it's 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP, help. This impairment or distress ranges from short-term problems with attention, memory, or learning up to mild to severe anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and attempted suicide. Again, for the listening public, contact SAMHSA, 1-800-662-HELP for a local health care referral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Diane Grace. I am a mother, grandmother, and neighbor. I have begun to follow the unfolding stories regarding marijuana secondhand smoke that my neighbors are experiencing from their neighbors. A quote from yesterday's Nextdoor, quote, "I cannot deal with all the weed smoke in the outdoor air and indoor where it seeps into our apartment. The smell is so bad we literally get headaches. I found when I walk by their car in the parking lot, the smoke is pervasive there. And if this neighbor opens his car door while I am walking by, I am overcome by the smell. My manager seems confused at how to assist me. Don't I have the right to breathe clean air?" End of quote. Since reading this on Nextdoor, I have researched marijuana allergy, and it is estimated that 10% of the population has a strong allergic reaction to marijuana smell. This is more than an annoyance. It is a painful health hazard. For countless others, it's a very uncomfortable nuisance. It seems unfortunate that a county who promotes a live well mantra would enable new businesses that contribute to the host of problems associated with secondhand marijuana smoke. It seems disingenuous to promote equitable good health when county citizens are handicapped by secondhand marijuana smoke exposures unacknowledged by county leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next caller.
Hello, this is Kelly McCormick. I'm a public health educator and the parent of a high school student and a college student. Like many of you, I know young people who struggle with anxiety and depression, who have thought of ending their lives. And I have mourned with parents who are living with the heartbreak of children who have taken their own lives or have tried to. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people aged 10 to 34 in the United States. It isn't enough to name the problem. We must do more to understand and address the root causes of youth suicide. I would like to bring your attention to a recently published piece in the Times of San Diego written by Dr. Ranit Lev, an emergency and addiction medicine specialist at Scripps Mercy Hospital, who also served in the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. Dr. Lev writes that the use of THC, the key psychoactive element of marijuana, carries the risk of suicide, citing studies by the National Institutes of Health, among others. We can see evidence of that link locally. In 2020, the San Diego County Medical Examiner reported that 39% of young men and women under age 25 who completed suicide had THC in their systems. More tested positive for THC than for alcohol. As a parent, I have to ask, why are we enabling the growth of the marijuana industry while ignoring the very real and tragic risks of marijuana use? Alcohol and tobacco products contain warning labels. There is more than enough evidence to warrant warning labels on marijuana as well. It's not enough, but it would be a start in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Ann Riddle. I was very excited when the city of San Diego on Monday passed a ban on flavored tobacco products, including menthol. And I was taken back to when our own county did that very same thing. So thank you for that. One of the important pieces of information that was provided that morning was from the Public Health Law Center. It's the kind of go-to legal consortium that public health educators use. And they wrote a treatise that is entitled that there is no constitutional right to smoke, to vape, or to toke. This means that our cities and our counties have no responsibility to enable those products or protect those products in any way, particularly since they bring with them advertising and promotions that primarily seem to be attractive to our young people. So I'd like to respectfully suggest that our county be proactive and remember that there's no constitutional right to toke, and perhaps add flavored marijuana products to its ban that already exists on flavored tobacco products. This seems to be a wonderful use of our land use powers here in the county, and this would protect this very vulnerable population of young people. Because the one thing we know for sure in public health is that 90% of all marijuana and tobacco use begins before the age of 19, before all the information that is available to them. And it seems that it could be our responsibility now to do a very proactive step and add marijuana products to the ban on flavored tobacco products. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to the next caller.
Audra, so I'd like to address the disconnect with what people understand the Constitution to be. Not only just people in the county, but our own officials and law enforcement don't understand the Constitution. They think that they can add words to it, that our rights can be infringed, and they can determine what it says in there. But we have endless rights. They aren't specific to one person or the next. It's for everybody, and there are enumerated rights that we don't even know about. So, there's unlimited things that we can do, but all of a sudden now it's like we got to follow rules and has nothing to do with law, and there's a disconnect there because a law trumps a rule. And yet people are enforcing rules. In fact, they're assaulting people, kidnapping them, and ticketing them for not following rules when the people that are breaking the law are allowed to just trample all over the people and nobody does anything about it. That's exactly why we need Jonathan Peck to be the sheriff in San Diego County, because enough is enough. And I'm sick of hearing people talk about rules and you got to follow the rules. Well, you know what? You got to follow the law. The law trumps all rules. So if you're not going to do that, you will be punished, not the people not following rules. We're not children, we're adults, and we can make decisions on our own. We don't need people sitting here making those decisions for us, telling us we need to inject ourselves with a bioweapon or muzzle our face and suffocate ourselves. All of those are attempted murder. You guys need to get back on the right track and understand that the Constitution is the law of the land. It always has been. It always will be. That will never go away. And if you guys continue to violate people's rights, you will wind up with some nice jewelry and a great outfit, all right? And a nice place to stay that they'll feed you every day.
Thank you. We will go to our next caller.
This is Dean. I'm calling about the thing of toxic chemicals in the unincorporated areas. I had to look last night after the board meeting to see what was, and 0.4% of the ingredients were considered trade secrets. So we don't even know what you guys are spraying down. If those things control vegetation, if I'm downhill from where they're being sprayed and they get sprayed into where I'm growing food, is that going to stop my food or contaminate the food? Also, we don't know what kind of toxic effects that they have on people, if they'll spread, if they'll cause lung problems. So I hope that you guys look at that and you don't spray those chemicals. Also, you guys brought up the point that it could be a problem with the California environmental policy. There's so many miles of road that could be a cumulative thing. So you guys may want to go and look back at that and do it the way and not just that through. Or maybe do fire control another way without spraying down the chemicals, because you don't want to leave that legacy that that board is the one who environment and cause cancer for people, especially when you're talking about Earth Day and being green and going green with solar on the rooftop and protecting the environment. Hopefully you guys don't spread us down and cause all kinds of problems for the unincorporated areas. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go to our final caller of the morning.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a concerned parent and public health educator. As you continue to direct staff on the marijuana ordinance, I would like to bring to your attention a very unfortunate situation that took place recently at a daycare facility. 3 children, all 1 year of age, were taken to the emergency room after their parents observed lethargic and uncoordinated behavior, as well as glassy bloodshot eyes. A detective conducted a search of the daycare facility and found what was described as goldfish crackers around high chairs used by children. The crackers were collected and sent to the lab for testing. The results showed the presence of THC. We don't know if the children were given the snacks intentionally or accidentally, but we can assume that any child, young or old, would be interested in eating goldfish crackers. Sadly, this is not the only time babies or young children have mistaken THC-infused edibles for common childhood snacks. I would like to see our county take some big steps in protecting our young people. Any product that depicts a common childhood snack infused with THC should be prohibited. Marijuana storefronts with the name of cookies in big blue writing or sour gummies depicting a child's favorite candy, Sour Patch Kids, should be banned. I strongly encourage you to take a closer look at the negative impacts of these products and direct staff to write language that will protect our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. For the remaining callers that requested to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, if you could please hang up and call back at the conclusion of the session. Chair Fletcher, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
Next on our agenda is approval of the statement of proceedings minutes for the regular meeting of April 6, 2022, and the Sanitation District meeting of March 15th, 2022. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Supervisor Anderson. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We'll now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar. Members of the public will have the opportunity to speak on the consent calendar after supervisors have had the opportunity to make comments or remove any items for discussion. I'll start with Supervisor Anderson. Any items you wish pulled or comments you wish to make?
I don't have anything to pull, but on item 5, I have a quick question, if I may ask of staff, and that is pursuing the stormwater infrastructure is really important, and I support that. But is that in lieu of other infrastructure? You know, I live in the unincorporated. All our infrastructure is important. And I just want to make sure that we're pursuing everything.
That's correct, Supervisor Anderson, is we will be pursuing all of the various fundings as passed by H.R. 3684 with the $1.2 trillion that Congress has passed. So it's not in lieu of just stormwater, but we will be tracking all of the federal and state funding and pursuing it with our federal and state lobbyists.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Hi, thank you so much. I also just want to comment on item 5. You know, I just want to, first of all, thank so many community members who've been, you know, really adamant about the importance of prioritizing stormwater investment and making sure that we're not leaving any money on the table, you know, now that we have more resources being made available by the federal government. You know, I think we all know that we face a stormwater crisis in the San Diego region and a $50 million deficit per year to address our infrastructure needs on stormwater. You know, in my view, this investment is just such an imperative priority because it not only fixes our crumbling infrastructure, but also, you know, is a real investment in protecting our beaches and coastlines and marshes and rivers and, you know, all the waterways that make San Diego such a beautiful and special place, and investing in our environmental health and keeping toxins and bacteria out of those waterways and ensuring that it's safe and healthy for our children. So I think this stormwater investment program is really, really important. I'm excited that there's an opportunity at the federal level. Thank staff for your work on putting this together, and I really hope that we can begin to make those investments that we need in our community.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. Item 5 seems to be a hot topic, which is good, and I'm all in favor of protecting our waterways, and I didn't realize we had such a deficit for that, but I know we have deficits in all sorts of infrastructure projects. So I appreciate the question that Supervisor Anderson asked on that, and appreciate your support on item 6. I think it is. This is for the Borrego Community Sponsor Group on consent moving forward. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
All right, Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you. On item number 5, I also agree with the importance of county proactively identifying and pursuing funding for stormwater infrastructure. But I do want to emphasize that as we're looking to support advanced stormwater management and in the unincorporated areas, I also want to work with regional partners to ensure that we coordinate an approach to benefit the region as a whole. So I hope that we can add and emphasize the need for the county to identify funding for the public health care crisis that is the sewage in the pollution in the Tijuana River Valley, because that's extremely important for the region. And so I hope that you know, that we'll come back, you know, as part of the work that's going to be doing as we move forward. And then the other item is number, I think it's item 11, right? No, that's a discussion item. That's it. With that, I will second the motion.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Let me ask the clerk to call forward any public speakers on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We did have 8 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar. We had 3 individuals in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. For any members of the public that have requested to speak on the remaining on the items on the consent calendar, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. But we will begin with the in-person speakers. And as your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. And I'd like to invite forward the following individuals. Kelvin Barrios, Amy Stewart, and Mitch Silverston. You will have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Kelvin Barrios. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Laborers Local 89. Here speaking in support of item 5 today. We agree. We represent about 4,000 construction workers here in San Diego County, and a big sector of the jobs that we get are around the stormwater field. And we've been working with other cities on trying to increase funding because stormwater is a regional problem. It's not just, one city, the runoff. It's going up to the ocean, the unincorporated areas. It starts there, makes its way down to the coastal cities. So we've been advocating for the increase in funding or even creating a regional plan on how to actually tackle the funding needs across the different cities. The county, we do bid on county projects, our contractors do. So we do get that work. It does help a local workforce for the most part. I think there's still some work to be done on the county on its contracting side, but conversation for another day. We're here to support the funding request, and thank you for your time.
Good morning. My name is Amy Stewart. I'm president of Emerald Keepers, a local nonprofit in Coronado, and I'm here today to voice my support for Supervisor Lawson Reamer's request to identify and pursue funding opportunities to support stormwater management. It is imperative that we protect our waters from toxic pollutants. As you know, all waters eventually make its way to the ocean, and healthy streams, rivers, lakes, estuaries, groundwater, bay, all of it, our oceans, are at risk from runoff. Aquatic life, both plant and animal, are negatively affected. Following a storm event, I know you've seen it, the trash along the highways all gets swept into the waterways, and it ends up in our bay, on our beaches, and in the oceans. But it's not just the trash, it's also the toxic chemicals from our roadways, pesticides, and other pollutants. Modernized green storm drain infrastructure is increasingly important for water quality, for aquatic and human life. We live in San Diego because we love our pristine beaches. It's key to our coastal lifestyle, tourism, and maritime industry. I paddle frequently in San Diego Bay, and I enjoy the wildlife. I'm particularly fond of the turtles in South Bay and all of the dolphins. And when it comes to rain events, we all know to stay out of the water for 72 hours, but they don't. There's nothing they can do about it. They didn't create the mess, we did, and it's time for us to clean it up as we're all connected. Ongoing dedicated funding for stormwater infrastructure is essential to San Diego County. Please approve today's request to identify and pursue funding for storm drain infrastructure to protect our waterways and improve quality of life for all residents and generations to come. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Fletcher and Honorable County Supervisors. My name is Mitch Silverstein. I'm the San Diego County Policy Coordinator for the Surfrider Foundation. Our mission is to protect and enjoy the world's ocean waves and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. I'm honored and thankful to have the opportunity to speak on their behalf regarding stormwater in San Diego County. Surfrider supports this effort to increase funding to our stormwater infrastructure. We need to close the current $50 million a year funding gap, and we need to invest in nature-based solutions to protect our ocean, cut carbon emissions, and increase local water supply. Our region currently imports the vast majority of our water. It's costly, wasteful, and carbon intensive. Meanwhile, we ignore the opportunity to catch and use the water that falls freely from the sky when it rains. Instead, stormwater floods our streets before being channeled directly to the coast, taking with it copious amounts of filth and pollution from all over the county. With the climate crisis upon us, now's the time to increase our water security in every way possible. As a local beachgoer and surfer, I know firsthand that when we treat our ocean like a trash can, we pay the price with our own health. So do thousands of other beachgoers and surfers that I have the privilege to represent today. I'd also like to plug the thousands of coastal recreation and tourism-dependent businesses that rely on clean water and healthy beaches for their economic well-being. The status quo sucks for our county, our ocean, and our beachgoers. While we certainly don't hold current board members and county staff responsible for the state of our stormwater system, we recognize that the responsibility to start fixing it rests in your capable hands. For the sake of all San Diegans, please seize this moment to get that funding. Thank you all for your time and service, and thank you to Supervisor Lawson Reamer and your staff for bringing this item forward.
Thank you. Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments. After the beep, I would like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will begin with our first caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. This is Lucero Sanchez with San Diego Coastkeeper. I'm calling in support of item 5 for stormwater funding. Stormwater pollution in San Diego is the most persistent threat to our coastline and ecosystems. Beach advisories and closures throughout the county threaten our health and economy and limit San Diegans' ability to recreate safely. More stormwater infrastructure funding also means more funding for climate solutions. San Diego faces many environmental challenges that relate to water, and as a major county in Southern California with very little annual rainfall, we rely on imported water to meet our needs. We risk exposure and vulnerability to water shortages with over 80% of our water supply. Climate change will further stress our region and make water supply, both local and imported, even less predictable. Long periods of droughts and heavy rains will become more common and erratic. Ensuring stormwater projects are adequately funded will enhance that water security, improve water quality, reduce flood risk, mitigate climate change, create green jobs, beautify neighborhoods, connect communities, and fulfill legal obligations. We're happy to see the board taking leadership in addressing this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Audra, there really was a crisis. Oh my gosh. It's like you guys talk in such crazy terms. Identify and pursue the money. We need to go get it. We need to make sure that we take all the money that is in our purview. I mean, and then you don't do what you're going to say you're going to do with it. I mean, how about you actually think about what's in the water that man puts in there, like fluoride or graphene? Or how about the fact that the fire retardant spray that you guys spray to protect from fires is going to be totally toxic to the water, but, you know, go ahead and pretend like you're going to fix a solution when, I mean, drought isn't even real. It's a man-made issue and a fear-mongering tactic, just like climate change. And we got to spend all this money so that we can, you know, save the earth, all while we kill people with vaccines that aren't even vaccines. Is basically genocide. Let's pretend we're saving the earth and even in here it says that you have $2 billion in additional funds. So why would you seek additional funding when there's an abundance of money anyway? It's like you guys are money hungry. It's pretty disturbing to know that you guys can continue to do this and people actually thank you for it. Oh my gosh, thank you for spending all of this money. It's so great. Even though they don't realize that it's their money that you're spending. I mean, it's a joke. There isn't a climate problem. The fact that, I mean, how about not letting illegal immigrants in so that they can make the Tijuana River and all of those areas just like out up north? So that's nice. I mean, how about you think about that, Nora? But you want to say that that water is toxic. You know that, but then you want to let people in. Who do you think made it toxic? Oh my God. Did you? It's ridiculous. So you guys need to stop spending our money like you do. Your pockets have like holes in. I mean, it's like.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. This is Madison Coleman, Policy Advocate with Climate Action Campaign. Our aging stormwater infrastructure threatens our most vulnerable communities. Heavy rain floods our streets and pollutes our neighborhoods. Sewage systems leak into stormwater pipes and waterways. These are dangerous public health risks that disproportionately harm communities of concern affected by the climate crisis first and worse. The region must adequately invest in stormwater management that protects our communities from toxic pollution that threaten our neighborhoods and close our beaches. Stormwater solutions are climate solutions. We can clean our waters, reduce flooding, create local green jobs for the economy, address climate change, and increase safe and secure water supplies. Increased stormwater funding can turn a liability into a regional asset. Our communities have a right to clean, safe water. Please adopt a proposal to direct county staff to seek federal and state infrastructure funding to update and upgrade our stormwater infrastructure. Thanks as always.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Truth, item 6. Borrego Springs Community Sponsor Group member Julie Gerson works as land program manager at the Anza Borrego Foundation and has an agenda of buying up all the private land in the area. The foundation already has acquired 310 miles of land. Anyone that's looking to scoop up a monopoly of land ownership is usually up to no good. They reek of the United Nations Agenda 21 plan. Hey, Jim, have you figured out what SCS stands for yet? I'll give you a hint. Mobility hubs. You should have it memorized because it's hand in glove to a lot of what you've been voting for. Item 5. Sounds like another federal money funnel grab using the excuse of stormwater runoff. If the county is already spending $50 million a year for this issue and can't even keep the toxic water from Mexico at bay, then there's no way throwing more money at it's going to solve anything. You guys even admit that only another $50 million would suffice to reduce pollution, but here you are trying to grab $2 billion. And the example of so-called modern green infrastructure is laughable. Listen to this idea they wrote. Leave a piece of vegetated land just as it is and let it catch the stormwater pollutants. Yep, that'll stop the flooding. $2 billion for that type of garbage idea. Who writes this crap? These excuses for federal funds are the real pollutants of this county, and the results are truly toxic to the public.
And Chair Fletcher, that will conclude public comment on the consent calendar.
We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We're going to go to agenda item number 7, second consideration and adoption of ordinance, formation of community facilities district. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. A motion by myself, second by Supervisor Anderson. Let me ask the clerk to call forward the speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 3 total requests to speak, 1 individual in person and 2 requesting to speak by phone. I'd also like to note for the record we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals. And I'd like to invite forward Mark Dorian. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
Mr. Dorian, while you come up here, I want to remind you that your comments need to be related to the adoption of a noticed public hearing around the formation of Facilities District 2021-01 and not any other topics.
Of
not
course.
At this point. Thank you, Mr. Dorian. Proceed.
Okay. You guys want to adopt a new tax, establish a new tax. So it's very relevant, the history of taxation, which is that before 1913, there was no property tax, there was no federal tax. States taxed people apportioned to their population, and which gave the states the power and the federal government very little power. So in the history of taxation or establishing any new tax, they always start out with a very small amount, and people don't really want, I'm sure in 1913, no one wanted to pay property tax or federal tax, but they made it so low that people didn't get too upset in the beginning, kind of like the gas tax that started, what, a year or 2 ago? And now it's up to 50 cents a gallon, and they're talking about increasing it soon. This is typical with taxes. You guys are going to establish a new tax, and it's going to get bigger and bigger and just be a real burden on society. Because as a corporation, the only people that you can leech off of are the public. And that's what you do constantly. And Audra was exactly correct about how you appropriate funds that literally, if 50 million didn't do it, what is going to do it? But of course, when you have no intention of solving the problem, just like the pharmaceutical industry isn't going to cure cancer, I mean, then they couldn't treat it and make millions of dollars. So in reference to your new establishing a special tax, it's total bullshit as usual to tax the people, and it'll get bigger. and I'm sure you already have programs that are designed to do whatever the tax is going to be allocated for. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted, and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
Audra, so yeah, I agree with Mr. Dorian there. You know, you want to tax things. We already have all of these taxes. You guys continue to want to add more and more taxes as if you don't want people, to own property. Make it so that you push them out of being able to do that while you buy up all the property. I mean, there's an issue going on here and people aren't clearly seeing it. But the fact that we can already pay taxes and you add another tax and another tax, all of a sudden it doesn't cover this. And we need more for this. I mean, it's pretty sad that people are allowing our governmental officials who are working for us to do this kind of stuff instead of saying, you know what, actually, I don't have to do that. The taxes are for the government. They're not for the people. Yet here we continue to put money into these tyrants' hands and pockets, all for them to just destroy the county. I mean, it's like we're literally paying you to do what you're doing, and then you're getting paid on top of that to do what you're doing. And it's all at the cost of every citizen in this county. And if people don't start waking up, they're going to take you out of your home and make sure that we can't own any kind of property, and they're going to put us in camp. But if you guys don't think that's happening, fine, do nothing. And this is exactly what happened, because we've done nothing for so long. We're not paying attention to what these people are doing and what kind of money they're spending, what kind of money they're asking for us. It's time that we say enough is enough. I'm not going to ask for permission anymore. And if you want that money, go find it somewhere yourself. But quit taking the people's money and doing jack shit with it.
Thank you. We'll go to the next caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Cindy Eldred for the owner of the that would be subject to the special tax of the Community Facilities District. We want to thank staff and County Council for bringing this item forward to you. We ask for your support and your vote of approval, and we're available for questions if you have any.
Thank you. Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
We have a motion by myself, second by Supervisor Anderson. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We'll go to agenda item number 8, administrative item, second consideration and adoption, notice public hearing, cost recovery proposal. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? I have a motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Ask the clerk to call forward the public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We did have 2 total requests to speak on this item. Both of them are by phone. I'd like to note for the record that we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will we will wait for the callers to call in.
There, let's go.
And now we will begin with our first caller.
Audra, man, the rest of the items on this agenda is just about you guys recovering costs of fees and all this. I mean, this one you want $2.4 million and you're going to charge customers. So, I mean, it's a problem because you guys are making all of these decisions for us in this county, and then you're making us pay for it on the back end. It's like we're being punished by your choices that you're saying that this is for us and we're doing this for you. Oh, but yeah, you know what? You're going to have to pay for it on the back end as well, even though, you know, we're taking your taxes and taking your money and making sure that you have nothing to live off of. I mean, no wonder why people are leaving is because you guys make it impossible for anybody to make any money. All you do is take it and make sure that you have a fee that gets covered by the consumer or customer when you're the one that made that problem in the first place. I mean, it's time that you guys start paying for these fees instead of making people do it when we already give you everything you need to do the destruction that you're doing. It's ridiculous.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
The truth. Item 8 says the Department of Environmental Health and Quality is delegated to duties to implement and enforce the powers of a mosquito abatement and vector control district. Well, even with the excuse of mosquito larvae, you can't, quote, enhance well-being of residents and our environments while spraying 1,300 acres of toxic poison today all over the county. No thank you, vector control. Here are a few examples of the supervisor's intended fee increases. A permit fee of $214 for a cart selling prepackaged ice cream or tamales. Think about that. The guy with the Paletas cart in City Heights has to sell about 100 bars just to cover the permit fee to have the cart in the first place. The new permit fee for a small and mom and pop restaurant that only has 1 to 10 employees will be $791. That's an increase of almost $40 from last year. If a restaurant has 26 to 100 employees, the fee skyrockets to over $1,000 a year. That's an incentive for restaurants to not hire more than 25 employees. The new micro home kitchens everyone was so excited about will have an initial permit fee of $632 and a renewal fee of $316 a year. That's almost $1,000 just to sell food out of your own house. These types of fees are a big part of why food, water, business, and overall life in California is so expensive and way overpriced.
And with that, Chair Fletcher, that will conclude public comment on this item.
Motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Go to agenda item number 9, administrative item, second consideration and adoption of ordinance related to ag weights and measures fees. I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Vargas. Ask the clerk to call forward the speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We did have one total request to speak on this item coming by phone. I'd also like to note for the record, we did not receive any e-comments on this item. Any members of the public that did request to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their live TV or video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
More fees, and all you want it for is to for direct marketing, pest exclusion, industrial hemp cultivation, verification of agriculture, oh my gosh, I can't, price verification, weights and measures. I mean, this is something that you guys, I mean, we don't even have, I mean, oh my gosh, I can't even talk. I'm just going to hang up.
For the record, that was, caller was Audra Morgan, and Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right, motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Go to agenda item number 10, second consideration adoptive of ordinance related to land development fees. Make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Lawson-Remer. Ask the clerk to call forward the speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We did have one request to speak on this item coming by phone. Also like to note for the record that we did not receive any e-comments on this item. For any of the members of the public that did request to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we will begin with our first caller.
This has to do with your cost recovery for land development and your green building initiative. That's something that you guys are forcing onto the people. You want getting money, $594,000 and $142,000 from planning, development, and Department of Public Works. I mean, this whole global climate change thing is totally BS. I mean, you're taxing people just when they want to put solar in their house. So it isn't something that is going to, you know, the fact that, I mean, you have $5.2 million in unrecovered money that you need. And that's, whose fault is that? Like, did you guys implement this where you want to do the green initiative? Is that going to put people out of even more homes because they can't afford to go down this avenue that you guys want to go down and make everything green by 2030 and all of the building? I mean, even Helen said yesterday that it would be impossible to get 100% renewable energy on top of all of the county buildings. That's just not possible. And so you guys continue to do these things and then want people to pay the fees and recover the costs for the decisions that you're making, especially on something so bogus like this green building initiative. I mean, how much pollution or toxins are going into the earth just by even building these green initiatives? Probably quite a bit. So, I mean, this is just ridiculous that you guys keep asking for more and more and more and more and more money. I mean, I tried to give Jim 11 cents yesterday and he wouldn't even take it. It's crazy. I mean, you guys just love money, but, you know, if it's not in millions of dollar increments, you don't give a shit.
And Chair Fletcher, that will conclude public comment on this item.
Motion by myself, second by Supervisor Lawson-Remer. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present voting aye.
We're going to go to agenda item number 11, notice public hearing around subcontractor transparency. We have a presentation on this. Before we get to the presentation, I want to thank staff and stakeholders, everyone who has contributed to the process to get us here today. Simple goal of increasing transparency for subcontractors. In requiring this, we help create a culture of safety, of legal compliance, ensuring labor standards are upheld. These ordinances will help root out labor violations and unqualified operators. It will help ensure accountability and safety. It is us as a county, just through the simple act of transparency, trying to look out for working families. Too many families are not only struggling to get by, but too many of them are being exploited, and working to ensure that subcontractors are being treated properly, being paid fairly, a decent wage, adequate safety on the job. Just a simple act of requiring people to disclose that will help us. It'll also assist so many of the other efforts underway around Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement and recent action by the district attorneys. And so I really appreciate the dates of some contract work, description of workplace safety or wage violation investigations, their DBE status, any special licenses or certificates. And as we have discussed, this information will be provided at the time the subcontractor is selected. And if any enforcement actions are needed, collaboration with the Office of Labor Standards can help ensure that. I'm also excited the City of San Diego is following suit on developing a similar ordinance to, again, provide some regional consistency. And so really appreciate all of the work that's been done to date and effort that's gone into this. And with that, I will turn it over to staff for their presentation.
Good morning, Chair Fletcher and members of the board. I am Vince Nicoletti with Planning and Development Services. I'm joined by Dennis Howe, Chief of our Building Division, and Brandon Butler with the new County Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement. Today's presentation includes ordinance updates for subcontractor transparency in county building and right-of-way permits. This project will improve transparency and equity by leveling the playing field for businesses that operate in accordance with labor standards, help improve worker safety on job sites, and capture key data to guide future policy decisions within the county. On March 17, 2021, the Board of Supervisors directed staff to seek input from stakeholders to develop options to promote transparency of subcontractors in building permits and right-of-way permits in unincorporated communities. On October 6, 2021, the board received the options for subcontractor transparency measures and provided direction to develop ordinances based on the options selected. The ordinance changes presented today were developed based on that board direction. This is the first reading for the board to consider adoption of the ordinance updates. To implement the October 21 board direction, staff worked with local labor organizations, the construction industry, telecommunication companies, community planning and sponsor groups, the Farm Bureau, and environmental stakeholders, among others. Stakeholder outreach was conducted during the ordinance option development leading up to the October board hearing and continued for the draft ordinances presented today to implement the board direction. The stakeholder feedback throughout the process remained consistent as follows. The labor groups, including Laborers International Union of North America, Southwest Carpenters, and Communication Workers of America, were interested in the protection of workers' rights and how to achieve adherence to fair labor practices. This included wage theft and proper training that they felt were not getting enough local attention. The construction industry, consisting of groups such as the National Electrical Contractors Association, Associated General Contractors, Building Industry Association, and Associated Builders and Contractors, felt that much of the information that is being asked for is already available and in some cases already documented with the state. Some of the groups were interested in the idea of providing safe and fair workplaces for the workforce, but they also echoed the need not to slow down our existing permit and inspection systems. The October 6, 2021 board action provided direction on which building and right-of-way permits to capture subcontractor information, which data to be collected, how to collect the data, and the timing for which it will be collected. The next slides will summarize the board direction and requirements in the ordinances being considered today.
Based on board direction, the following ordinance updates apply to types of building permits for which the subcontractor disclosures are required. All new commercial projects, residential tracts of 5 or more lots, and multifamily construction projects consisting of 5 or more units. Commercial tenant improvements, also known as renovations, that affect more than 10,000 square feet. Projects associated with general plan amendments, privately initiated land development projects that change the general plan designation for a property. In terms of permit volume, that would be applicable to these permits and requirements. The county process roughly 300 commercial building permits annually and 20 to 25 tracts. That could range from 5 to hundreds of units in each tract. In October 21, the board selected 2 options for which right-of-way permits to be applicable for the new requirements. The board selected both projects that are subject to prevailing wage and those that are not subject to prevailing wage. State prevailing wage rates for workers apply to all public works contracts as set forth in California Labor Code. The board excluded residential projects in the right-of-way, such as driveways and retaining walls. The county processes roughly 1,700 right-of-way permits for encroachment, construction, and excavation annually that would be subject to these new requirements. Based on board direction, today's ordinances will collect the following information for subcontractors that will work. Subcontractor specialty, name and contact, license number and workers' compensation policy, start and end dates of subcontractor work, subcontractor address, detailed scope of work done on the job, verification of OSHA or wage violations, providing information for both occupational safety and wage theft violations, subcontractor disadvantaged business enterprise status, a program designed to remedy discrimination, and special safety licenses or training requirements for subcontractor scope of work. The October 6, 21 board letter also provided options for when and how subcontractor information would be submitted to the county, including short and long-term options that range from a digital form that could be uploaded in the short term, 6 months, or a longer-term option that included configuration changes to the county's permit management system, which would take up to 18 months to complete. The board selected the long-term option. Since that time, staff have begun development of the long-term option that will allow for data to be uploaded via smartphone or tablet using the county's existing permit management system to capture data in a format that will allow for data analysis to examine trends along with other key info. This long-term option will also include creation of reports that can be run based on the new data being tracked. The long-term option will be completed in 2023. Based on work to date, staff found that much of the work can be applied to also implement the short-term option without additional cost. This will allow for a phased implementation utilizing a fillable PDF that can be used once these ordinances go into effect, while the long-term option is completed. Both short and long-term options align with the October 6, 2021 board direction to submit subcontractor information after permit issuance but prior to subcontractors doing work on the site during the construction phase. These changes will be effective 30 days after the second reading of the ordinance and be applicable to new permits issued after the effective date. The ordinance would not be retroactively applicable to existing permits issued prior to the effective date. Since the last board action on the project, the county's new Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement, OLSE, has been established and Deputy Director has been hired. OLSE is a key part of the team, helping to guide development of the future reporting tools and details on how data will be tracked and utilized for future data-driven policy decisions. PDS, DPW, and OLSE have developed guidance tools and will provide training for the new requirements in today's ordinances. Tools will include videos, in-person training, additional handouts, and guidance on filling out the PDF and online guidance tools. While voluntary compliance will be our goal, the departments have begun discussions on potential enforcement tools, including stop work notices and citations, among other efforts. OLSE will serve as the lead in addressing complaints and taking enforcement actions. PDS and DPW will work closely as a part of that team with some additional tools that can be part of the enforcement process. County staff is also in discussion with other local jurisdictions that are developing similar programs to collaborate on approach and best practices. Today's recommendations include, in accordance with State California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, find this project is categorically exempt from CEQA. Second, approve the introduction of the ordinances first reading. And third, if the board takes action as recommended, then on May 11th, 2022, the board will consider and adopt the ordinances Title VII, Division 1, and Title IX, second reading. If approved and adopted by the board, new requirements would be effective 30 days after the second reading on June 10th, 2022. This concludes the presentation, and staff are available to answer questions.
Thank you. Let's hear from our public speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We did have 2 total requests to speak on this item, both coming via phone. I'd also like to note for the record that we did not receive any e-comments on this item. Any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. And we will begin with our first caller.
Hi, this is Kaylee Gao from the Communications Workers of America. CWA is a labor union representing primarily telecommunications workers in the San Diego area and nationwide. We support these ordinances and commend the board for taking action to promote accountability and safety. The telecom industry is highly subcontracted, and providers often rely on multiple layers of contractors, meaning a provider contracts work to a company, that contracts to another company, that contracts to another. And the entity doing work in the right of way is often many layers from the provider. These subcontracting arrangements can erode accountability, and CWA members see firsthand that when low-road contractors cut corners, it can create dangerous conditions. For example, there have been multiple incidents of subcontractors hitting gas lines and causing explosions. In 2019 in San Francisco, a Verizon subcontractor hit a gas line and caused an explosion that burned for hours. Even when there aren't dramatic explosions, shoddy work can create hazards for workers and the public. In subcontracting work, employers often hope to avoid liability for safety and training. By requiring permit holders to provide information on the subcontractor, the county encourages permit holders to take accountability for the work performed by these subcontractors and promotes a culture of labor compliance and safety for this work. CWA thanks the board and staff for your work on these issues.
Thank you. We will go to our next caller.
Audra, Subcontractor Transparency Program for Safety and Legal Compliance. Love the way you guys talk about that. So you're going to have special safety license and they want transparency. How about we get this for all of you guys and what you're doing? You want to stop work and enforce actions and different things. But are you the reason why projects don't get completed? Yes. Is this part of it? Probably. And, you know, I mean, nobody's holding you guys accountable. You want to make sure people are in legal compliance and making sure that things that are going on are safe. So, I mean, what about you guys and what you're doing? Because what you're doing isn't safe. It's not legal. Yet you want to enforce that upon other people because it's all rules for thee, but not for me. Well, you guys need to be held accountable too. In all things. So, I mean, if you want to go after safety and transparency and make sure that people are under legal compliance, then maybe it starts with you and you can be the example for the rest of the county, and then people won't think that they can just get away with anything because you guys do.
Thank you. And Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, second, we'll go to Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Thank you for introducing this item last year. I've stated before as the co-chair of the Transparency Committee that this work is so vital to our local government work for all residents and businesses, making sure that information is more accessible. I'm really happy to support this proposal before us today to increase transparency and accountability for all subcontractors and to ensure that those that we do business with are held to a higher standard. I also want to thank county staff for connecting with stakeholders and with our County Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement, and for ensuring that we use technology at our fingertips to have the framework, to be online as well. This is about making sure that the workers, the people that are building our communities are getting paid, and look forward to the Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement providing reporting to make sure we do business with those in good standing while ensuring workers are protected. So thank you for all the great work that you did.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't support this item today, and I realize, you know, the efforts before us here, and I appreciate all the staff's efforts on this, but we already collect data and verify data on contractors who apply for these permits, and we ensure that they're in good standing with the state license board. And requiring the county now to collect and verify similar data on each and every contractor on these projects is, to me, is bureaucratic overkill. We have a housing crisis, and government should be getting out of the way, not putting another roadblock or another criteria in place. I mean, this is not the time to be doing this. We should treat our local builders with respect and trust that they can deliver the projects with a qualified team of their choosing, and increasing scrutiny now on housing, I think, is only going to decrease our housing availability here in San Diego County. We keep driving people out of the county and even out of the country. This is going to delay development of projects and add additional costs. And one thing that, in the business impact statement here on the agenda item, it says these changes will not have significant cost or time impact to customers. Yet in the later in the agenda item where it says the construction and building stakeholders, the National Electrical Contractors Association, the National Black Contractors Association, the Building Industry Association, Associated General Contractors, and the Associated Building Contractors, and the Building Innovation Group made comments that said these requirements can add time and cost to projects. And at a time we have a housing crisis, I don't think this is the right thing that we should be doing. So, I think we should be building it as fast as possibly can and getting out of the way. So I'm not going to be supporting the item. Thank you.
Great. Motion and second. Please vote.
Chair Fletcher, that motion passes with Supervisor Desmond voting no, all other supervisors being present voting aye.
Thank you. We're going to go to board meeting update section of the meeting. I do giving my colleagues the opportunity to update each other and members of the public on any other bodies they're a part of, and when we go to Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I couldn't find my notes yesterday when we did this. This is basically on the San Onofre nuclear generating plant there. There's two different panels there that I represent the county on. One is the community engagement panel, and that's basically where the community can come and ask questions and get updates from the SoCal Edison and also from the NRC and things like that. Our next meeting is going to be on May 19th. It's going to be a virtual or Zoom meeting. But a big thing is that the Department of Energy secretary herself, Secretary Granholm, actually came to the Songs plant to see firsthand the dismantling project. So yes, it is being dismantled. The outbuildings are being done now. The domes are going to be taken down about a year or so from now. But the spent nuclear fuel is being stored on site. And just want to just for putting this out there, there was a employee got hurt on April 11th. A contractor employee at Songs was injured while performing the dismantling activities near an open space on the floor. The injured worker was transported to the hospital and treated and released. An immediate work stop was put until the incident is fully evaluated. On the action to move the spent nuclear fuel, more cities and agencies are passing resolutions in support to move the spent nuclear fuel. And the support of these regions in different areas throughout not just San Diego County and Orange County, but we're also looking at different areas, Humboldt area, Diablo Canyon, different nuclear generating stations throughout the state for support, so we can push forth federal legislation for hopefully both a short-term and long-term solution for storage of the spent nuclear fuel. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Vargas.
There's a lot I could report on, but today I just want to make sure that I report that on May 1st, I think we've all done a lot of work around this, but if everybody can help me to make sure that all of our youth 18 and under who make sure that they download the Pronto card, because starting on May 1st, they are going to be able to use our public transportation at no cost for free. And so the more we are able to get them to use it, this is a pilot program, so the more people use it, the better we will be able to see what they need and what else we can do to make sure that public transportation is accessible for our young people. Remember, this is part of making sure that we have better, the quality of life, the environment, access to transportation. So anybody 18 and under, please make sure you get your Pronto card. If you don't have, you can download it on your phone. You can actually just get a card at any of the different stations. And again, this is a pilot program between the county, SANDAG, MTS. We've all done a lot of work around this. Super, super important. A lot of work, 11 years of advocacy work from our community members so that we can get this done. I want this to be a really successful program. So please get all the organizations and everybody else you know to sign up, and we'll see you on public transit. Thank you.
Is it 1 year they get for? Is that what it is?
It's a pilot program is for 1 year, and hopefully we can make it work, and then we can extend it.
Okay. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Yeah, very excited about that. It's great. Thank you for reporting. I think there's a lot to be reported or could be reported. I just want to highlight one thing. I know this board is so laser focused on affordable housing. It's an agenda we all share. So I wanted to highlight one thing to report back from SANDAG, the Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee that I chair. We've been putting together a proposal to basically launch a regional housing finance authority for our region to be able to raise some resources and finance some of the housing that we're talking about, not just coming out of the county's coffers. So we'll be bringing, there's a whole proposal that's moving forward, and we'll be bringing more details in a couple weeks and asking this board to formally support the legislation in Sacramento. But it's just, I think it's really exciting. Lots of consensus across the region that this is a problem that we all share and want to focus on.
Thank you. We have one adjournment today. Supervisor Joel Anderson honoring Al Haven.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. I'd like to adjourn today's meeting in memory of Dr. Al Haven, a man who will be remembered for his passion for education and his love for his family and community. Dr. Haven was a pillar in East County's educational system for over 40 years and moved mountains with his innovative thinking. The Havens arrived in Alpine when Al was selected to be the superintendent of our school district. Superintendent Haven made long-lasting positive impacts on Alpine schools, teachers, and students, but he didn't stop just there. With 50 years of experience in education, Al knew that both teachers and students would benefit from rethinking the traditional one-size-fits-all approach. He founded a curriculum program which reimagined the traditional classroom by customizing learning to each student's ability, which proved to be highly successful. Al was a trusted leader and a beloved friend in our community. I can tell you from personal experience, all good things in Alpine were touched by the Havens. Al was a dedicated Kiwanian, a board member to the Alpine Community Center, the Alpine Chamber of Commerce, and an elected planning board member. His volunteer work helped improve the lives of all Alpinians. Al was my friend and gave me great advice through the years, as he did with many people in the community. Al leaves behind a loving wife, Sharon, their children, Lynn, Lori, and Scott, and many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Sharon and family, please know Al will be deeply missed in our community and remembered for his kind nature and belief in the goodness in others.
Thank you, Supervisor Anderson. We're now going to resume non-agendized public communication. Let me ask the clerk to call forward the remaining speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We do have 6 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, all by phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I would like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We will begin with our first caller. Again, please state your name before beginning your comments.
My name is Barbara Gordon. I wanted to give a big shout out to the county and the other cities in San Diego for their leadership role in banning the sale of flavored tobacco products that protect our young people from a lifetime of addiction. It is well documented the role of flavors encouraging tobacco use among adolescents. There is an ever-expanding cannabis marketing of flavored products, both smoked and vape, among adolescents. The CDC released a study where they surveyed 1,423 students in 8 Northern and Central California public schools from 2019 to 2020 to record flavored cannabis use. Among past 30-day cannabis users, the use of flavored cannabis most often used was fruit flavored. Of course, of the cannabis users, 48% smoked cannabis, 58% of those surveyed vaped the product. These results show that a substantial portion of adolescent cannabis users are choosing flavored cannabis products, both combustible and vape products. With the high THC potency of cannabis, this finding illuminates a potential health concern. as adolescents increase interest in experimentation with flavored cannabis products. Given the youth appeal of these flavors that contribute to underage cannabis use, I respectfully urge the Board of Supervisors to add flavored cannabis products to your sale of flavored tobacco ban. Please consider lessons learned from the tobacco industry's predatory practices and prevent youth cannabis use. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next caller.
Truth. Mary D. beat me to it yesterday. Tara, you're unprofessional and unfit to represent anyone in any official capacity. Your behavior has been absolutely despicable. I've seen you act like a spoiled brat when stats didn't fit your agenda. And I've seen you time and again use your daughter as a stratagem, including for forced injections. But on April 5th, you really sunk to a new low. Tara, you try to suggest that the Bible and Christians are filled with hate. Those verses you had someone pluck off the internet for you was a Wikipedia translation of the Bible, if I ever heard one. Would you suggest that the Quran and Muslims are full of hate? I bet you already have. Would you do that with the Torah and Jews? I don't think your friends at the ADL would like that. The Bible offers morals still valued today, while your sustainability cult has no problem destroying the lives of people around the world by de-incentivizing or outlawing the ability to own cars, homes, and land. If you can't tolerate Christians, then don't be a supervisor in this diverse county. But you know, Tara, that hate is exactly what I expect out of someone whose political campaign was contributed to by Hanoi Jane. Do you still stand by your Yale Herald article from 1999 where you wrote, quote, "Communism has been good to the Cuban people," end quote. Cubans who were lucky enough to escape to America for freedom might have something to say about your version of La Verdad. Tara, just apologize to the county and permanently step down. I know with your criminal record, it's hard to get a job other than politician, but please, go back to the UN, the CFR, or the World Bank. They're the only ones who want to hear you talk about your animal cruelty experiments on cow butt.
And Chair Fletcher, not seeing anyone else call in, that will conclude the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
All right. With that, we will adjourn into closed session. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.
The board will now recess into closed session to continue the consideration of those matters listed under item 37 on yesterday's agenda. If there are any reportable actions, they will be reported out after the conclusion of the session today.
I know.